Hey everybody, it's Norforsaken here, and welcome to our next installment in Lyrics on the Go, as I kind of dive deep into some of the stories behind the music of the tracks that I've written for my album Never Be the Same. And in this video, we're going to talk about what we once were, and this one is going to be actually kind of funny. So here we go. So what we once were, you're gonna think this is so stupid, but the inspiration of this song came to me while I was sitting at home. I was on the couch. It was I think it was like a Saturday early afternoon or something like that. Literally, I was just kind of flicking through channels on the television. And as I was flicking through, I bumped into a channel that had a Firefly marathon on. I kept flicking. I bumped into a channel that had a Battlestar Galactica marathon on. I flicked through the channels again, and I bumped into a channel that was going through a Quantum Leap marathon on. And you know, as I sat there and I kind of like saw these marathons, which I've seen all of these shows because I love sci-fi, and I thought to myself, man, you know, I loved all of these television shows, and I've spent so much of my time invested in watching each and every episode, and in some of these cases I've watched these episodes more than once, Firefly, and but then I kind of also thought, man, but some of these shows really just disappointed me at the end. They did not fulfill the promise that they gave me, and I feel like I didn't get a really good return on my investment in regards to my time. And I sat there and thought, you know, I wonder what it would be like to write a song about that. So, what we once were, if you listen to the lyrics, it talks about someone giving their all to something and getting getting betrayed in return. You know, I gave you all of my life, but you paid me back with a slap in the face. You stabbed my back with a knife. And that feeling ultimately came from the feeling I had from many of these TV shows not living to their expectation, and all this time that I've put into them. Sometimes, you know, if it's a long running television show, hundreds of hours, and then ultimately not being satisfied with the ending. And initially, when I wrote this song, and you can find it on the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Norforsaken, I actually have the original song there that I performed live, where the song is actually dedicated to these TV shows. But what I did was I kind of reworked it so that it was more based on like a relationship, which in its own right is very, very similar in regards to that feeling of like, hey, I gave this person or this relationship my all, and what I got back in return was betrayal. You know, I gave this person, this relationship, all of my life, and yet I was returned with a slap in the face. So that's kind of where the inspiration of this song came from. And I know it might be a little silly, but that's okay. Sometimes inspiration comes from silly, stupid things. I talk about, you know, being promised resolutions and not being fulfilled, giving all of my life, promises of a proper ending, and it not ultimately coming true. And again, this was all as a result of that Saturday afternoon, just flicking through TV channels and seeing these wonderful shows that I still ultimately love. I do. I love these shows. But, it's okay to still be disappointed if it didn't end the way you intended, or early cancellation, Firefly. So it's okay. It's okay to love the body of work as a whole, but still knowing it's, the limitation of the ending. But with that being said, again, although this was the shows were the inspiration of the song, it still does, it brought out this feeling of, how can I communicate this feeling of giving my all into something, or someone giving their all into something, or someone, or an entity, and being, met back with the exact opposite. And then I go into that a little deeper into the chorus, because although we might regret and lament all of that we put in, like I put in everything and got, it was met with disdain. I put my all into something, and only pain is what kind of was given back. Sometimes we kind of go back and seek that out, because oftentimes we get used to that abuse, right? We get used to that cycle, and we actually seek that out. And as I go into the chorus, although the verses are very much kind of lamenting what we've experienced, but in the chorus it contradicts itself, because it's like, although you have hurt me and you have met my love and my devotion with pain and sorrow and abuse, sometimes we seek that out. And I kind of go into that in the chorus. Again, as you heard in the chorus, it's this desire to be subjected to that pain, the desire to be subjected to that that sorrow, that hurt, those words that can be abusive. Is it healthy? No, by no means is this a healthy relationship that we're singing about here, right? We're talking about, I know I gave you all and you hurt me, and I resent it, but I miss it and I want it, and I want that pain that you cause. I want that hurt that feels good. Does this person need psychotherapy? Absolutely. So I wanted to kind of portray that dynamic, that dichotomy, that mental and emotional conflict of the person. And I think we've all experienced this, right? We've all been in relationships that, we sometimes we hate being in, but then it's like, oh my God, but I miss this person. It's almost like the abused dog, right? An abused dog still loves their master, but then still gets smacked over the head with a newspaper sometimes. So I wanted to kind of like have this song that's very dark in nature, and that's kind of like the musical elements of the song. It's very dark, very heavy guitar and heavy bass, with high wails of the lead guitar, to kind of portray that darkness, and that emotional conflict that someone would have when they're experiencing a relationship like this, that ultimately is extremely toxic and eventually really puts the person in a disservice, because their ideals and their outlook and understanding of love is just jacked. It's a very unhealthy look, almost like that, you know, I hate you because I love you type of thing, which is a totally wrong, abusive, gaslighting type of thought process, right? But a lot of people suffer from that, and a lot of people find themselves in relationships that way and try to justify it sometimes. So yeah, that's what we once were. Thank you for listening, and kind of going into this silly inspiration of it, but it brought upon this kind of thought of this type of abusive relationship that I sung about and wrote about. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on board, and I hope you enjoy the album and you continue listening in. Again, this is Norforsaken, and that was What We Once Were.